Shalom and good morning. Again, I'm about to see if this working. I'm in my room this time. Shalom and good morning. Again, I'm about to see if this working. I'm in my room this time. All right, so excuse the echo. All right, so I sound fine. I'm only doing this because I'm in my room this time. And I said yesterday that I was going to be going into the Book of Enoch. I'm going to be doing more of these because I hear a lot of misrepresentations about the Book of Enoch. And I'm going to clear some of the stuff up. Let me turn this light out. It's too bright. All right. So when dealing with the Book of Enoch, excuse me, drink some water. Shalom, Yah son. See you in the chat, bro. So there was claims that it's a lot of claims going about the Book of Enoch. Some say that, they were referring to Enoch as, Christ when he's called the Son of Man. That's going to be one thing we're going to clear up. There was also claims that the Watchers taught Enoch all these magical arts and all that. That's going to be another thing that's going to be cleared up. There's also some other claims that, Enoch, Enoch was all about aliens and stuff. That's going to be cleared up. And then I want to do that first before I get into the apocalypse of weeks, because that's the main topic. But I wanted to clear some of this stuff up because there's a lot of claims being made, and I don't think people actually read the Book of Enoch to even make those claims. So I'm going to be reading part of the introduction of this book. And this is not the translation that I have in my hard copy. I have the R.H. Charles translation. And like I said before, there are a few people that, translated the book and stuff like that. But I want to get into some stuff real quick. Just alone, we're going to go through some of these claims, and then we're going to read what the Book of Enoch actually says. Okay, because as I done in my past Book of Enoch examinations, the Book of Enoch talks about the accounts that took place in Genesis chapter 6, which we don't have in the Bible. Excuse me, which we don't have in the Bible. We understand that Jude quoted Enoch as being seventh from Adam. And as I made claim before, you have two Enochs mentioned in the Bible. One of them is which the occult uses, and the other is the Enoch that was taken up. So that I'm going to go into scriptures to prove that case right there. You got Genesis 4 and you got Genesis chapter 5 to prove the claim that there are two Enochs in the Bible, and you have to be careful which Enoch you're reading from. Okay, for those that might want to go and check out the Book of Enoch, I'm gonna show you exactly which Enoch that I read from. But let me see here. We're gonna handle the accusations real quick, and hopefully people find it informative. So I have this. Let me share my screen. This is from David Wilbur, or whatever this guy's name is, right? So let me share my screen. And we're going to get into some of this, and we're going to actually see if the claims that are being made actually supports what is in the Bible. Okay, so this is one of the claims that I found, that they're trying to say that Enoch was equated with the Messiah, and that's false, because the book of Enoch doesn't even say that. And I'm going to go into a scripture where Enoch was shown who the Son of Man is. Okay, so I got these notes written down. Let me get my notes. Let me put my hard copy up. All right, so first we're going to read the claims here, and then we're going to go into, we're going to start at the beginning a bit. All right, so this is the author, David Welber. And then this is what he says in his writing here. And remember, I said I have the R.H. Charles translation, my heart. Let me just show you. Let me stop sharing my screen real quick. I have the R.H. Charles hard copy. And hopefully my connection isn't too choppy. Hopefully you guys can hear me perfectly fine. But I'm going to do this real quick. This is the hard copy I have. You see right here where it says R.H. Charles translation here, right? That's the hard copy that I have. Now, let's get into some of these claims, and then I'm going to read the beginning, because there's also another claim that a guy that comes into my live a lot, his name is David. He says that the book of Enoch wasn't written around the time when the Torah was written. And we're going to disprove that false claim as well. But let's start with these claims that I brought up in the beginning, okay? Because again, people speak against things that they don't even know, they probably haven't even read. So I'm just going to help you guys out real quick. So let's read this. Again, this is David Wilbur. Some confusion surrounds the Son of Man in Enoch 1, particularly in 1 Enoch 71:14, which is what I have up. And we're going to go and read that and see what it says in there. When this figure's identity is revealed, this article will argue in favor of the plain reading of 1 Enoch 7:14 that identifies the patriarch as this figure. So basically, he's saying that they're saying that that Enoch is referring to himself as the Messiah, which is false. Excuse me. So according to the parables of Enoch, 1 Enoch 37-71, Enoch was taken into heaven. We get that in our scriptures. Genesis chapter 5, right? That's one that I brought up. Genesis chapter 5. We're going to go there. We're going to read this in the scripture. Okay. So this is given all the generations of Adam. This is the book of the generations of Adam, right? So we go down here to where Jared is Enoch's father in verse 18. But you see this here, Jared lived 162 years and he begat Enoch. All right, now let's go to Genesis 4. Just to clear this claim that there are two Enochs in the Bible, which I stated many times. Genesis chapter 4. Okay, this is dealing with Abel and Cain, when Cain slew Abel, killed his brother, and then they had a child named Seth to replace Abel, right? So we understand that in this chapter, there is an Enoch mentioned here that is of Cain. right? So we're going to go through this again. I'm going to make this very clear. There are two Enochs in the Bible. And if you know anything about what these, let's say, if you know anything, if you've ever studied anything that the Masons believe, they believe all that Enochian magic garbage and all that stuff. But I'm not here to talk about that because I'm not I'm not heavily steeped into that, and I don't touch that too much. But I have seen many channels that discuss things about what they believe, and they expose most of their beliefs. So we understand that she again bare his brother Abel. Abel was a keeper of the sheep, and Cain was a tiller of the ground. And it came in process of time. It came to pass that Cain brought the fruit of the ground and offering unto the Lord, and Abel also brought of the firstlings of his flock and of the fat thereof. And the Lord had respect unto Abel and to his offering. Now we understand that Cain was he got mad. He got basically jealous of his brother and killed him because the Most High chose Abel's sacrifice over his. So let's just get to the point. So this is the whole thing about when Cain was saying, when the Most High was saying, "Where's your brother?" And he said, "Am I my brother's keeper?" and stuff like that. And then the Most High said, "Your brother's blood crieth out to me from the ground," and stuff like that. So Cain was cursed. He had a mark put on him, right? Now this is when Cain was put out basically into the land of Nod, east of the Garden of Eden, right? So here is where you find the first Enoch that was born. Verse 17, and it states, "And Cain knew his wife, and she conceived, and bare Enoch, and he builded a city, and called the name of the city after the name of his son, Enoch." Now, that's the first Enoch that was born. The Enoch that was born of Cain, not of Seth, but of Cain, right? And this is where the confusion comes in. And then you see all of Enoch's offspring here, Mahujel, right? And Methuselah. And then it says Lamech and Adah and Zillah and Jabal. And you see, where is he at? Tubal Cain, right here. This is the descendants of the first Enoch. Now, this is the Enoch that was born from Jared's line, right? The one that was taken up, because when you read Genesis 4, this Enoch wasn't taken up. This Enoch wasn't taken up, right? And then here it is where I made that claim that, there was a son born after Abel that replaced Abel because of Cain's killing his brother Abel. And Adam knew his wife again, and she bare a son and called his name Seth. For God, said she, had appointed me another seed instead of Abel, whom Cain slew. And to Seth, to him also there was born a son, and he called his name Enos. And then began men to call upon the name of the Lord. So right here we have Seth, right? When you look in Genesis 5, says right here, this is the line of Seth. And Seth lived and begat Enos, right? Same thing mentioned right here. Seth begat Enos, right? So you go all down here and it gives all these lineages. You got Enos lived after he begat Canaan 815 years and begat sons and daughters. All the days of Enos were 905 years and he died. Canaan lived in 70 years and begat Mahalalel. So we understand that these people that were born of Seth aren't the same people that Cain had. And this is where the confusion comes in, because they see that name Enoch. They believe that this Enoch is the same Enoch as this Enoch here. When we see that this Enoch was born of Cain at the 17th chapter verse here, right? So this one was the one that was taken up. So Jared lived 162 years and begot Enoch. Jared lived after he begat Enoch 800 years and begat sons and daughters. All the days of Jared were 962 years and he died. And Enoch lived 65 years and begat Methuselah. So we understand that Enoch had a son named Methuselah. This Enoch had a son named Irad, and Irad begat Mahujel. Enoch lived 65 years and begat Methuselah. And Enoch walked with God after he begat Methuselah 300 years and begat sons and daughters. All the days of Enoch were 365 years. And Enoch walked with God, and he was not, for God took him. And that's all we get in here about Enoch. Now, let's go back to what this guy is saying here. Says here, according to the parables of Enoch, 1 Enoch 37 to 71, Enoch was taken into heaven, as we just read in the scripture, and shown prophetic visions concerning eschatological hero known as the Son of Man. This figure is also called the Chosen One, Anointed, and Righteous One, which are the titles referring to the same messianic figure in the narrative. The author of this section of First Enoch clearly draws upon messianic prophecies from Daniel, Isaiah, Jeremiah, Ezekiel, etc. to develop this figure. So this is where they take it and they trying to say that, Enoch is referred to as, Christ or whatever. According to the narrative, this messianic figure will sit on a throne of glory and judge the deeds of the wicked people who have rejected God. Afterward, he will come to earth to dwell with the righteous. Enoch 1:45, 3-6, 51, 1-3. The narrative goes on to describe how he will destroy sinners and strike down kings and rulers who are against God. Enoch, 1 Enoch 46, 4-5. It says he will be the light to the nations. We understand that this is the Messiah, who we all know as Jesus Christ, Hebrew name Yehoshua. 1 Enoch 48, 3-4. He will be worshipped by all who dwell on earth. 1 Enoch 48, verse 5. In his name, the righteous will have salvation. Enoch 48, verse 7. Finally, this messianic figure will usher in an era of peace. 1 Enoch 69, 26-29. So it says here, and we're going to go into this, but I want to clear up these other claims that are made about the book of Enoch as well. So we're going to get there. At the end of the parables of Enoch, Enoch is taken to the heaven of heavens, where he sees a fiery heavenly palace. There, Enoch is greeted by God, the 4 archangels, and innumerable other angels. Surprisingly, Enoch is greeted as this Son of Man figure that he had seen in his visions. No, that's false, because they try and use this verse here out of context, and we're going to read it. But first, we're going to read the earlier passages where Enoch saw the head of days, and with the head of days was going the Son of Man. Right? We're going to read that in its complete context as to what the scripture is saying. So it says here, and the head of days came with Michael and Raphael and Gabriel and Phanuel and thousands and 10,000s of angels without number. And he came to me and greeted me with his voice and said to me, you are that Son of Man who was born for righteousness. No, that it doesn't say born for righteousness in the text. They inserted that. And as you see, it says emphasis added right there. You are the Son of Man, that Son of Man who was born for righteousness, and righteousness dwells with you, and the righteousness of the head of days will not forsake you. Enoch 1:71, first Enoch 71, 13 to 14, emphasis added. Now we're going to go here and read this part. This quote comes from the Hermania translation. If this translation of first Enoch 7:71-14 is correct, when it identifies Enoch as the messianic figure, then this should impact how much significance we place on these writings. If the author of the parables of Enoch intended to identify Enoch as this figure who fulfills these messianic prophecies, then that puts the parables of Enoch, that is 1 Enoch 37:71, in direct conflict with the teachings of the New Testament concerning the identity of the messianic Son of Man. Do we have good reason to accept this translation as correct? Many who have read 1 Enoch might point out that some older translations, here we go, render the text differently. For instance, the popular 1912 translation from, once again, I just showed you guys, I got this hard copy right here, R.H. Charles, has the verse in the third person rather than the second person. Thus, Charles' translation reads, this is the Son of Man. The difference in translation has some big implications in regarding to the revelation of the Son of Man's identity. If Charles's translation is correct, then Enoch is not being revealed as this figure, but is being directed to a separate figure, which is correct. So then, which translation is correct? Should the verse read, you are the Son of Man, or this is the Son of Man? So we're going to go into the book, right? We're going to go into the book here. And this is on page, what is it? Let me get my hard copy real quick. Shalom, Rita. Shalom, Keith. How you guys doing? So let me go to this chapter and make sure I got the right chapter here. So let me see here. Let me go to page 46. I believe it's on page 46. That's the Book of Methuselah. Let's see here. Okay. Oh, this isn't it. I think it's page 23 or 26 because it's in chapter. Let me see. It's in chapter. I probably should have put the names on these. Okay, let's see here. Should be page 20, I believe. Okay, so it's in chapter 46. Let's go to page 23. No, that's something else I was going to be talking about. All right, let's just go to, what is that chapter again? Chapter 46. I'm going to find 46 real quick, because these pages ain't going to line up because there's notes in here and stuff like that. So we're going to go to chapter 46 and see what that says. Then I'm going to go into all these other claims that was brought up about Enoch. That ain't really true. All right, chapter 46. So give me a second while I scroll through this. Chapter 46. Let me see. Oh, it's down here. Chapter 46. I don't know why they got it all mixed up like this, but all right, so it's the book of parables. All right, now we're getting here because it's in the second parable. All right, so in the second parable here, second parable. So this is talking about the Messiah, right? This is talking about the Messiah. Now notice Enoch is being shown this vision. This is not talking to Enoch. This is Enoch being shown a vision. So it says, and this is the second parable about those who deny the name of the dwelling place of the holy ones and of the Lord of spirits. They will not ascend into heaven, nor will they come upon the earth. Such will be the lot of the sinners who deny the name of the Lord of spirits, who will thus be kept for the day of affliction and distress. On that day, the chosen one, so this is Enoch talking about what he's seeing here in his vision. On that day, the chosen one will sit on the throne of glory and will choose their works, and their resting places will be without number, and their spirits within them will grow strong when they see my chosen one, and those who appeal to my holy and glorious name. And wait, let me see. Yeah, this is Enoch being shown a vision by the Most High. So it says, and on that day I will cause my chosen one to dwell among them, and I will transform heaven and make it an eternal blessing and light. And I will transform the ground, the dry ground, to make it a blessing, and I will cause my chosen ones to dwell upon it. So this is talking about his elect here. And those who commit sin and evil will not tread upon it. For I have seen and have satisfied with peace my righteous ones, and have placed them in front of me. But for the sinners, my judgment draws near, so that I may destroy them from the face of the earth. And this is what Enoch is talking about when he said he saw, the Most High and his Son together, right? And there, this is the words of Enoch, and there I saw one who had a head of days, and his head was white like wool. And with him there was another whose face had the appearance of a man, and his face was full of grace like one of the holy angels. And I asked one of the holy angels who went with me and showed me all the secrets about that Son of Man right here, who he was and from whence he was, and why he went with the head of days. And he answered me and said, this is, right, as we see in that, when I was reading that dude, the guy I was just reading, he says to Enoch, this is the Son of Man who has righteousness and with whom righteousness dwells. He will reveal all the treasures of that which is secret, for the Lord of spirits has chosen him. Now, this is not talking about Enoch. This is referring to somebody else. Enoch is being shown who the Son of Man is, right? And then we get this again further into the, the book. Hello, Daisy Fields. All right, so we get this further into the book where he's talking about this even more. So they try to say that when Enoch was talking to the watchers, let me go there, right? This is another thing. They say, somebody says that Enoch was talking to the watchers and he was shown all this stuff. But before that, I want to show how Enoch was talking about the account in Genesis 6. And then we'll get into that other one. So we're going to go down the line. So this is on page 15 in this PDF file. Rebels among the watchers. Now I hear people saying that, Enoch was taught all these magical arts and all this garbage. No, he wasn't. Enoch gives an account of what the watchers taught the sons of men, right? We're going to read that. Now, you guys will remember this. Let's go into Genesis 6 because it's very, very important, right? We're going to go to Genesis 6. We're going to read this first in the book of Enoch, and we're going to see what it says in Genesis. Actually, let's go into Genesis 6 first, right? Genesis chapter 6 says this, and it's the same words that's being used in the book of Enoch, right? So to clear that up, Enoch is not being referred to as the messianic king, right? He saw Christ with his father, right? That's what he saw. And it came to pass when men began to multiply on the face of the earth and daughters were born unto them, that the sons of God saw the daughters of men, that they were fair, and they took them wives, all of which they chose. And the Lord said, my spirit shall not always strive with man, for he is also flesh, yet his days shall be 120 years. There were giants in those days. And also after that, when the sons of God came into the daughters of men, and they bare children to them, the same became mighty men which were of old, men of renown. And then this was talk about when God saw the wickedness of man was great on the earth, and that every imagination of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually, right? So we're going to read this part again. The rebels amongst the watchers. This is talking about why that passage says this in Genesis 6. Now, this is going to sound real familiar. And it came to pass when the sons of men had increased, that in those days there were born to them fair and beautiful daughters, and the angels, the sons of heaven, saw them and desired them. And they said one to another, come, let us choose for ourselves wives from the children of men, and let us begat for ourselves children. And Simyaza, who was their leader, said to them, I fear that you may not wish to do this deed to be done, and that I alone will pay for this great sin. And they all answered him and said, let us all swear an oath and bind one another with curses, as not to alter this plan, but to carry out this plan effectively. And they all swore together, and all bound one another with curses to it. And they were in all 200, and they came down on Ardis, which is the summit of Mount Hermon, and they called it the mountain Hermon, because on it they swore and bound one another with curses. And these are the names of their leaders: Simyaza, who was their leader, Akiba, Ramiel, Kokabiel, Tamiel, Ramiel, Daniel, Ezekiel, Berquiel, Asiel, Armoros, Ananiel, Zaquiel, Samsiel, Sadiel, Turiel, Umiel, and Arziel. These are the leaders of the 200 angels and of all the others with them. And they took wives for themselves, and everyone chose for himself one each. And they began to go into them and were promiscuous with them. And they taught them charms and spells. So this is what the watchers were teaching mankind after they, mated with them. And they taught them charms and spells, and they showed them the cutting of roots and trees. And they became pregnant and bore large giants. And their height was 3,000 cubits. These devoured the toil of men until men were unable to sustain them. And the giants turned against them in order to devour men. And they began to sin against birds and against animals and against reptiles and against fish. And they devoured one another's flesh and drank the blood of it from it. And the earth complained about the lawless ones, right? And then it talks about how men, this is where the wickedness was being taught on the earth. This is why in Genesis 6, it says that the thought that God saw the wickedness of man was great on the earth, that every imagination and the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. That's why. This is why right here. And Azazel taught men to make swords and daggers and shields and breastplates. And he showed them the things after these, and the art of making them, bracelets and ornaments, and the art of making up the eyes, and of the beautifying of eyelids, and the most precious stones, and all kind of colored dyes. And the world was changed, and there was great impiety or wickedness, and much fornication, which is what we read in the Bible. It says that fornication was being, let's just bring that up, right? There was much fornication, much whoredom, right? So we go into the lexicon here. It is Hebrew 2181 for fornication. And it is zanah. And it says here, to commit fornication, to be a harlot, to play the harlot, to be a harlot, act as a harlot, commit fornication, to commit adultery, to be a coat prostitute, to be unfaithful to God, right? So that's what it's talking about. There was much whoredom or fornication, and they went astray, and all their ways became corrupt. And Arzarak taught all those who cast spells and cut roots, Armoros, the releases of spells, and Berquiel, astrologers, and Kokabiel, portents, and Tamiel taught astrology, and Arsadel taught the paths for the moon. And at the destruction of men, they cried out, and their voices reached heaven. So this is Gabriel, Uriel, Suriel, and Michael looking down and seeing the earth and seeing how devastated it was and all that stuff. But that's what that's talking about. So Enoch's telling us that when the watchers came down, they taught the sons of men warfare, taught the women how to put on makeup, taught them how to beautify the eyelids and all that stuff. Now, another claim, which we have here in page 23, is when Enoch meets the holy watchers. Enoch, and we get this in scripture as well, right? Enoch was appointed the judge over the watchers. He was to judge the watchers, right? So this is in 1 Corinthians 6, right? And it says, know ye not that we shall judge angels? How much more things that pertain to this life? If then ye have judgments of things pertaining to this life, set them to judge whom are least esteemed in the church. I speak to your same, it is so. Is it so that there is not a wise man among you? No, not one that shall be able to judge between his brethren. So even in the scriptures, it says that, you know, the elect are going to judge the angels, right? It's even said that, you know, in Revelation 20, when it says about the, let me get that. Revelation 20, when it talks about those that are beheaded, right? Oops, I don't want that part. All right. Those that are beheaded. And it says here, and I saw thrones and them that sat upon them, and judgment was given unto them. So the people that were beheaded, and I saw the souls of them that were beheaded for the witness of Jesus or Yehoshua, and for the word of God or the word of Yah, and which had not worshipped the beast, neither his image, neither had received his mark upon their forehead or in their hands, and they lived and reigned with Christ 1,000 years. So we understand that they're going to be given judgment. They're going to be able to judge with him, right? So this is when Enoch he disappears, and none of the sons of men knew where he was hidden, where he was, or what had happened. So when he was taken, nobody knew. Let me get rid of these people in here. Give me a second. Give me a second, y'all. Hold on. I gotta take care of some stuff real quick. All right. Okay, now let's continue on. And then Enoch disappeared. None of the sons of men knew where he was hidden, where he was, or what had happened. And all his doings were with the holy ones and with the watchers. So he was with Uriel, he was with Uriel and all them. And then it talks about he was with the watchers in his days. And I, Enoch, was blessing the great Lord and the King of eternity. So we understand that he was blessing the Most High and his son, not himself. And behold, the watchers called to me, Enoch the scribe, and said to me, now this is when the watchers were asking Enoch to make intercession to see, asking to basically send Enoch to ask the Most High to pardon them. But the Most High said he wasn't going to do it. All right, so, and I, Enoch, was blessing the great Lord and the King of eternity. And behold, the watchers called to me, Enoch the scribe, and said to me, Enoch, scribe of righteousness, go and inform the watchers of heaven who have left the high heaven and the eternal, the holy eternal place, and have corrupted themselves with women, and have done as the sons of men do, and have taken wives for themselves, and have become completely corrupt on earth. They will have on earth neither peace nor forgiveness of sins, For they will not rejoice with their sons, talking about the giants. The slaughter of their beloved ones they will see, and over the destruction of their sons will they lament and petition forever. But they will have neither mercy nor peace. And Enoch went and said to Azazel, you will not have peace. A severe sentence hath come out against you, that you should be bound. You will have neither rest nor mercy, nor the granting of any petitions, because of the wrong which you have taught, and because of all the works of blasphemy and wrong and sin which you have shown to the sons of men. Right? So Enoch, all right, thank you, Rita. Thank you for that. So Enoch was appointed to judge the watchers, and he was sent to be judge over them. So they went and petitioned to Enoch to see if they could be pardoned from the coming judgment in the last days when the Most High come back. Hold on. All right. So it says, and then I went and spoke to them all together, and they were all afraid. Fear and trembling seized them. And they asked me to write out for them a record of a petition so that they might receive forgiveness, and to take a record of their petition up to the Lord in heaven. For they were not able from then on to speak, and they did not raise their eyes to heaven out of shame for this sin for which they had been condemned. And then I wrote out the record of their petition and their supplication in regards to their spirits and the deeds of them, of each of them, and in regard to what they asked, that they should obtain absolution and forbearance. And I went and sat down by the waters of Dan in Dan, which is southwest of Hermon, and I read out the record of their petition until I fell asleep. Now, when we understand Most High speaks to people in visions, right? This is a part that people leave out. They say that, oh, he was, it's just nonsense that people say without reading the book for themselves. But Enoch is having a vision, and the Most High gives him a vision and tells him this. And behold, a dream came to me, and visions fell upon me. And I saw a vision of wrath, that I should speak to those sons of heaven and reprove them. And I woke up and went to them, and they were all sitting together, gathered together as they mourned in Ubazael, which is between Lebanon and Sinner, with their faces covered. And I spoke in front of them all the vision that I had seen in my sleep. And I began to speak these words to reprove the watchers of heaven. So I don't see Enoch being taught any magical arts or anything like that. Because in the book of reproof, which is the very next thing that I want to get into, which is in page 26, this is Enoch saying how they wasn't going to be granted any forgiveness or anything like that. And this is what he's talking when the flood happened and all the giants were wiped out. They became evil spirits on the earth. This is where you get all that, what people would say, paranormal activity that, well, let me just read it. This is the book. This book is the word of righteousness and of reproof for the watchers who are from eternity, as the holy and great one commanded in that vision. I saw in my sleep what I will now tell, with the tongue of flesh and with my breath, which the great one has given men in the mouth, so that they might speak with it and understand with the heart. As he was created and appointed, as he has created and appointed men to understand the word of knowledge, so he created and appointed me to reprove the watchers. So that's why Enoch was there with the watchers. Reprove means to rebuke. when you go into the word for that. The sons of heaven. And I wrote out your petition, but in my vision, thus it appeared that your petition would not be granted to you for all the days of eternity. And complete judgment has been decreed against you, and you will not have peace. And from now on, you will not ascend into heaven for all eternity. And it has been decreed that you will be bound on earth for all the days of eternity. And before this, you will have seen the destruction of your beloved sons, and you will not be able to enjoy them, but they will fall before you by the sword. And your petition will not be granted in respect of them or in respect of yourselves. And while you weep and supplicate, you do not speak a single word from the writings which I have written. So this is Enoch, right? He's telling them what the Most High told him in the vision. And the vision appeared to me as follows. Behold, clouds called me in the vision, and mist called me. And the path of the stars and the flashes of lightning hastened me and drove me. In the vision, winds caused me to fly and hastened me and lifted me up into the sky. And I proceeded until I came near a wall which was made of hailstones, and a tongue of fire surrounded it. And it began to make me afraid. So I'm going to get past all this because he's describing what he was seeing up there, what he was seeing in the vision. So he sees these hailstones in this house built of mosaic, like mosaic of hailstones, and the floor was snow. And his roof was like the path of the stars and flashes of lightning. And among them was fiery cherubim, and their sky was like water. Wow. Kind of gives me it kind of sounds like Genesis chapter 1, when in the beginning there was water. Then God made the firmament, and he put the water above the firmament. So that's another thing, right, that Enoch mentions, but that'll be on another discussion about the creation of the earth, right? And how we're going to go into most of this stuff so we could get a complete understanding of how did the Most High create the earth? What does it look like? We see it every day. When you look up in the sky is as blue as the ocean because there's water up there. That's why the firmament is called heaven, right? I went through this on many flat earth discussions. So the floor was snow. The roof was like the path of the stars and flashes of lightning. And among them was fiery cherubim, and their sky was like water. And there was a fire burning around its walls, and its doors was ablaze with fire. And he goes into the house. I want to just go down here to where the Most High was talking about how the giants, when they here it is right here. So it says right here, and this is also when you guys see my thumbnail, this is also talking about that when Jude talked about how Enoch prophesied of the things that he saw, 10,000 10,000s of his holy ones that comes to execute judgment upon all that are the ungodly and stuff like that. I'm just paraphrasing. So a sea of fire burnt around him, and a great fire stood in front of him, and none of those around him came near to him. 10,000 times 10,000 stood before him, but he needed no holy counsel. And the holy ones who were near to him, did not leave by day or night, and did not depart from him. And until then, I had a covering on my face as I trembled. And the Lord called me with his own mouth and said to me, "Come here, Enoch, to my holy word." And he lifted me up and brought me near to the door, and I looked with my face down. And he answered me and said to me with his voice, Hear, do not be afraid, Enoch, you righteous man and scribe of righteousness. Come here and hear my voice. And go and say to the watchers of heaven, who sent you to petition on their behalf, you ought to petition on behalf of men, not men on behalf of you. Why have you left the high and holy and eternal heaven and lain with women and become unclean with the daughters of men and taken wives for yourselves and done as the sons of the earth and begotten giant sons? And you who were spiritual, holy, living an eternal life, but you became unclean upon the women and begot children through the blood of flesh, and lusted after the blood of men, and produced flesh and blood as they do, who die and are destroyed. And for this reason I give men wives, so that they might sow seed in them, and so that children might be born by them, so that deeds might be done on the earth. But you formerly were spiritual, living an eternal, immortal life for all the generations of the world. For this reason, I did not arrange wives for you. And we get this in the scriptures when it says, when people go to heaven, they neither marry nor are given into marriage, right? For this reason, I did not arrange wives for you, because the dwelling of the spiritual ones is in heaven. And now the giants who were born from body and flesh will be called evil spirits on the earth, and on the earth will be their dwelling. And evil spirits came out of their flesh, because from above they were created. From the holy watchers was their origin and first foundation. Evil spirits they will be on the earth. Spirits of the evil ones they will be called. And the dwelling of the spirits of heaven is heaven, but the dwelling of the spirits of the earth who were born on the earth is earth. And the spirits of the giants do wrong, are corrupt, attack, fight, break on the earth, and cause sorrow. And they eat no food, do not thirst, and are not observed. And these spirits will rise against the sons of men and against the women, because they came out of them during the days of slaughter and destruction. And the death of the giants, wherever the spirits have gone out from their body, their flesh will be destroyed before the judgment. That's talking about the flood. Thus they will be destroyed until the day of the great consummation is accomplished, upon the great age, upon the watchers and the impious ones. So it talks about how they were formerly in heaven. Now, I'm going to go into the next point, which is on page 46. This is on page 46. Actually, it wasn't page 46. It was this part that I wanted to read here. And yeah. So this talks about what those angels looked like. And then I'm going to get into the guy that wrote it. For anybody that might say I'm being racist, you know, I'm going to show you the guy that wrote this stuff, right? And they also talk about him in here. They say who it was that wrote it. Let me see. Is it in here? All right, so let me see. These are the notes here, the Book of Methuselah. This short section has many interesting features. The story is set some years later. Methuselah is now head of the family, since Enoch went off to live with the angels. See 81 verse 6, chapter 81 verse 6. A year after he wrote the book, Methuselah's son Lamech is now grown up, and his first son is born. At 106 verse 2, we get a description of the child who will be named Noah. And then it says here, it seems he had white or blonde hair, a red birthmark, and perhaps blue eyes. Even more surprisingly, at 106.5, we learn that this is what the Watchers look like. If some of the wives of Enoch's family were descended from the runaways, then Lamech could easily have had an unexpected blonde-haired child. This is what they say in the notes. Lamech is disturbed about his baby's unusual appearance and goes to see Methuselah. This section seems to have been written by Methuselah to reassure his son about the birth, written as though a reply from Enoch himself, which it was a reply from Enoch. What was that? It was something that I had read in here that I want to bring out. They was mentioning, oh, that's what it was. I'm sorry. I gotta go back to the beginning. It's right here. I knew it was something missing that I was trying to pull from this. So this is the guy right here. I have based this book on Michael A. Nibbs. Let me see. Yeah, Michael A. Nibbs' scholarly translation of the Ethiopian manuscripts. This is where I want to correct David. Correct, Keith. Correct. And also that talks about that in here, Keith, in the book of Enoch. Yeah, talks about that, about how God created that, the sun, the moon, the stars, and how there's no other planets or anything else mentioned. There's no aliens. It's only angels, men, God, right? And his creation. That's it. Ain't no planets, ain't no galaxies, ain't no deep space, nothing mentioned. Okay. Ain't none of that. But this says the Ethiopic Book of Enoch, Oxford University Press, which I believe to be the best translation of currently available. I first heard about the Book of Enoch a few years ago while I was researching into end of days prophecies. And this is where we're going to be getting at. I just want to clear up some of these claims because I'm going to go into the apocalypse of weeks where it talks about all the events from the Exodus account all the way up until basically from the beginning all the way to the end. Right. And he put together a chart or whatever. So I'm gonna get into that in a minute. I just want to clear up some of these statements that's been made about the Book of Enoch and show you guys this right here. So David, I know David is watching. So David told me that the Book of Enoch wasn't written around the time that the Torah was written. And we got that on video, right? We got that on video. So if he denies that, just like, as a matter of fact, I want to get into something real quick. I might do it at the end of this video. So stick around. I might do it at the end of the video because David lied about something. And I want to point that out, right? So just stick around, right? Just stick around to the end. Remind me in the chat when it gets close to the end of this video to bring up that lie that David told. And I'm going to go over to Nick's channel and play where David made that lie that he said he didn't say what he said, right? But anyway, let's continue with this. I first heard about the Book of Enoch a few years ago while I was researching into end of days prophecies. When I finally managed to get hold of a copy, I discovered that it was a very strange and unusual book. The first time I read it, I was skeptical and somewhat puzzled. I wondered who would have written an odd book like this. And then it says here, hopefully David's sitting in here so he can see that the Book of Enoch was indeed written around the same time that the Torah was written, right? So it says here, I knew that Enoch Enoch in Hebrew, was very favorably mentioned in Genesis, and I discovered that Enoch's book describes the Exodus and Moses in very favorably, although not by name. So my first theory was that it might have been written around the same time as the Torah, perhaps around 1400 BC. However, after several readings, I could find no published plausible theories. The prophecy of the animals is extremely precisely written and obviously refers to the events after Moses. So see my notes on that chapter. Additionally, who would have dared to produce a book with people such as Moses described in terms of farm animals? Michael Knibb, whose translation I have used to produce this book, studied all available manuscripts and sources. Now, again, people act like it's a strange thing when the Most High refers to nations of people or people in general as animals, right? So I want to go into this real quick. In Daniel's vision, Daniel, we understand that when he's talking about these kingdoms, actually, I might want to get that in the Hebrew concordance. Let me bring that up. Hebrew concordance, and we're going to look. The Most High usually refers to nations or stuff like that as animals, and that is in Scripture, right? So in Daniel, right, when he's mentioning beasts, right, like the Antichrist is mentioned as a beast, right? And specifically the beast that has the mouth of a lion, the feet of a bear, and the body of a leopard. So it's not taboo to think that, right? But again, and then I also want to make this point of people say since Enoch in page 88, which is what I'm going to get into in a minute. So 46, I don't know why I had page 46 there. I forgot the point I was going to make on that, but it doesn't tie in with anything that I was talking about. But so in Daniel chapter 2, right? Daniel chapter 2, or better yet, we could use Daniel. We could use this, right? So we're going to go down here. This is Daniel being shown or telling the king's dream, right? The king has a dream about this statue, and we're going to see what this is saying. So you'll notice that this is talking about also Daniel 7, I believe. Yeah, Daniel 7 and Daniel 10. I believe those two, right? But the interpretation of the king's dream, he was looking at this statue, and now Daniel's telling him about the interpretation, because when the Most High gives a vision, he doesn't just give a vision of a statue and say, go figure it out. No, he gives you the interpretation of what this means. So this is the dream, and we will tell the interpretation thereof before the king. Thou king art a king of kings. Oh, wait, I guess they're referring to Nebuchadnezzar as, Christ when he says thou art a king of kings. No. I mean, if people want to use these analogies and say, oh, look, well, Enoch's called the Son of Man. Let me go to page 88. Enoch's called the Son of Man in this chapter, so they're trying to equate him to Christ. Well, are you going to say that about Ezekiel? because Ezekiel here was also called Son of Man, right? Let's get that. So this is Enoch having this vision about the abominations that were going on in Israel in Ezekiel 8. And also in his vision of the valley of the dry bones, he's called that title as well. Doesn't mean he's called Christ, right? So that's another thing that I want to clear up, because many people use that argument saying, oh, well, the book of Enoch doesn't belong in there because he's called the Son of Man and they're trying to equate him to Christ. Well, let's see what Ezekiel was called. And behold, the glory of the God of Israel was there, according to the vision that I saw in the plain. Then he said unto me, Son of man, lift thine eyes now to the way toward the north. So I lifted up mine eyes toward the way toward the north, and behold, northward at the gate of the altar, this image of jealousy at the entry. So was he calling Ezekiel here Christ? What about in chapter 37, when the Most High says this to Ezekiel? The hand of the Lord was upon me and carried me out in the spirit of the Lord and set me down in the midst of the valley, which was full of bones, and caused me to pass by them round about. And behold, there were very many in the open valley, and lo, they were very dry. And he said unto me, Son of man. Is he calling Ezekiel Christ here because he's using this phrase here? I don't think so. So that's another thing that I've seen people trying to use to discredit the book of Enoch. So if you're going to use that to discredit the book of Enoch, then you might say the same for Ezekiel, because I think that they were referring to Ezekiel as Christ as well by using this Son of Man phrase. It just doesn't make sense to me. So here is the guy that I'm talking about, Andy Mccracken. And this is the guy that is being referred to here. Andy Mccracken. Oops, let me go back up, because this is the guy that was mentioned as giving this this analogy of the watchers having blonde hair and blue eyes. All right. So let me go to that part. Where is it? Here it is right here. In the end, I was convinced that the book is really Enoch's true account of otherwise forgotten events that occurred in early times, events that we have no other surviving records of. Enoch left us a book that describes people of an advanced culture, blonde-haired people that Enoch's people considered to be the angels of God, and it was written on the angels' instructions. So then this is where I got this guy's name from. Where is he? So it talks about the preserved things, Michael Nibb. Where is his name at? Anyway, I found this. I seen this guy's name. I don't know if it's in one of these chapters or not, but I seen the guy's name mentioned in this book. So I just decided to go and look him up and pull him up and see who he was. And when you go back, this talks about Andy Mccracken, Book of Enoch. Books by Andy Mccracken, author of the Book of Enoch. So they call him the author. He's not. He was just the person that translated or wrote the translation. So this is Andy Mccracken, right? Translates the Book of Enoch, right? So let me pull most of this down since I've covered some of these points. Now I'm going to cover this last point that I want to make about this here. So we understand that in Daniel, the Most High uses animals or stuff as reference to nations, people, kingdoms, or whatever. So you see this interpretation, First Kingdom, Babylon, Medio-Persia, and Greece is the one that's the bear that's divided. And then the last one is Rome, right? So let's go to Daniel 7, where we get a better, where this is explained a little bit more. Daniel 7. All right. Vision of the four beasts, right? And it says, and four great beasts came up from the sea, diverse one from another. The first was like a lion and had eagle's wings. And I beheld till the wings thereof were plucked. It was lifted up from the earth and was made stand upon the feet as a man, and a man's heart was given to it. And behold, another beast, second, like a bear. It raised up itself on one side and had three ribs in the mouth of it between the teeth of it. And they said thus unto it, arise, devour much flesh. And after this I beheld, and lo, another like a leopard, which had upon the back of it four wings of a fowl. And the beast had also four heads, and dominion was given to it. And it says here, and I saw after this I saw in the night visions, and behold, a fourth beast, dreadful and terrible, strong exceedingly, had great iron teeth. It devoured and brake in pieces and stamped the residue with his feet of it, and was diverse from all the beasts that were before it, and it had 10 horns. This is the same beast, the last kingdom is mentioned in Revelation 13 as the beast that takes on all these other ones, right? It talks about the horn. And then you go down here. Now remember, the last beast, right? The last beast, the fourth beast, we're going to understand that this is the fourth kingdom. When you go back to Daniel 2, the last kingdom, the fourth kingdom, they say is Rome. We'll get there in a minute. So it says here, I came near unto one of them that stood by and asked him the truth of all this. So he told me and made me know the interpretation of the things. These great beasts, which are four kings. So it's not something surprising that the Most High uses animals in reference of people or nations or kingdoms, because we also get this again in Acts 10, even in the New Testament, when Peter has this vision, which everybody tries to say that this is Peter being told that he could eat whatever he wants, when the context is he was going to the Gentiles, right? So let's go straight to Peter's vision, right? On the morrow, as they went on their journey and drew nigh unto the city, Peter went up upon the housetop to pray about the 6th hour. And he became very hungry and would have eaten, but while they made ready, he fell into a trance. So he's about to have a vision. And saw heaven open, and a certain vessel descending upon him, as it had been a great sheet knit at the four corners and let down to the earth. Now, why would they say that the sheet knit was let down to the four corners and it was let down to the earth? We'll get into that another time. Wherein all manner of four-footed beasts of the earth, and wild beasts, and creeping things, and fowl of the air. And there came a voice to him, rise, Peter, kill and eat. This is where they try and say that, oh, all the food, all these animals are good to go. They're good to put in your mouth. But this is what Peter says. But Peter said, not so, Lord, for I have never eaten anything that is common or unclean. So they'll say, look, this is what he's talking about. He's talking about food. No, he's not. Here's another thing I found very, very interesting, and I'll go into the apocalypse of weeks after this. I'm just showing how God will, I'm showing how God will use animals in reference of people or nations, right? I see you in there, y'all, son. Correct, man. They got it all wrong over there. Totally wrong. Even though Bereans said they can't use this to describe food, they still do it. But anyway, I don't want to talk about them over there because we know what they're over there doing. But anyway, and a voice spake unto him again a second time, what God hath cleansed, that call not thou common. Now remember, he said this three times. Why did he say this three times? Well, when we read later, it's three people that come to him, right? This was done thrice, three times, and the vessel was received up again into heaven. Now, while Peter doubted in himself what this vision which he had seen should mean, behold, the men which were sent from Cornelius had made inquiry for Simon's house and stood before the gate, and called and asked whether Simon, which was surnamed Peter, were lodged there. Now this is why he said it three times. While Peter thought on the vision, the Spirit said unto him, behold, three men seek thee. This is when he was told this three times. As we read up here, this was done thrice, three times. Three men comes to him. This is what the Spirit is showing Peter. Arise, therefore, and get thee down and go with them, doubting nothing, for I have sent them. So this is what Peter's being told. When we go down here, it says this. And Peter was coming in, Cornelius met him and fell down at his feet and worshiped him. But Peter took him up, saying, stand up, I myself also am a man. And as he talked with him, he went in and found many that were come together. And he said unto them, you know how that it is an unlawful thing for a man that is a Jew to keep company or come unto one of another nation, but God showed me that I should not call any man common or unclean. This was the purpose of the vision. He was showing him animals to symbolize the other nations, the Gentiles. And he told him not to call them common or unclean. So I just want to point that out. It's a two-hit punch. One, this chapter is not talking about food. Two, this is, again, the Most High will use a vision of animals to describe people. It's no surprising thing. Okay. Now let's get into the apocalypse of weeks, right? I just want to clear up most of this stuff. Now we're going to go into the apocalypse of weeks and we're going to see this stuff. And then I'm going to go into that video dealing with how I'm gonna go into that video dealing with how David tried to lie, right? And say he didn't say what he said. And I'm gonna cue up that video in a minute. But let's go here. The Apocalypse of Weeks. Prophecy of the 10 weeks. 137. Because again, I like when people think that other people don't know nothing, you know, because then when they start to see that people indeed do know something, then it makes them, you know, look foolish. But this is Enoch talking to Methuselah. Let me drink some water real quick. And now, my son Methuselah, call to me all your brothers and gather to me all the children of your mother, for a voice calls me and a spirit has been poured over me, so that I may show you everything that will come upon you forever. And after this, Methuselah went and called his brothers to him and gathered his relations. And he spoke about righteousness to all his sons and said, hear, my children, all the words of your father, and listen properly to the voice of my mouth, for I will testify and speak to you, my beloved. Love uprightness and walk in it. And do not draw near to uprightness with a double heart, and do not associate with those of a double heart, but walk in righteousness, my children, and it will lead you in good paths. Kind of sounds like what Moses told the children of Israel in the wilderness when he was taking them up on Mount Sinai. And righteousness will be your companion, for I know that the state of wrongdoing will continue on earth, and a great punishment will be carried out on the earth, and an end will be made of all iniquity. Let me just go up here, because I told you guys I was going to show this chart right here that they made. Right here. So this is what we're going to be reading, so you guys can understand what Enoch's talking about. In the first week, justice and righteousness. This is around the time when before they were in the garden and stuff. Then it says Enoch's time. The second week, great injustice. The second week was when the flood happened, and then it goes into Noah's time. The first end, the flood. Third week, plant of righteousness. Abraham's time. We understand that in scripture. When Abraham, he was given that promise. Fourth week, law for all generations. This is in Moses' time. Then the Exodus. Fifth week, house of glory. This is talking about Solomon's temple and Israel. Sixth week, a man ascends. This is talking about Jesus' time or Yehoshua's time. House, temple burnt, chosen people scattered. So this is talking about when Israel was scattered. Seventh week, the apostate generation. Many deeds. This has not happened yet. The second end, judgment of fire. We understand when Most High comes back, the next judgment is not going to be of water. It's going to be of fire. The eighth week, a sword. This is talking about a future event, righteousness, new house, right? Talking about the resurrections. Ninth week, the righteous judgment is revealed. This is tying in with Revelation 20. All the powers of heaven shine forever. This is talking about the new Jerusalem, right? So this is the prophecy of the 10 weeks. This is where I'm going to show you exactly where we're at right now. We're right here in the 7th week, the apostate generation. Many deeds are being done before the second end, fire judgment. This is where we're at right here in the 7th week. Then it's going to be this. All this is going to take place after, right? So, and he spoke about righteousness to all his sons and said, hear my children, all the words of your father, and listen. All right, I read this part. Let me go down. Okay, so it says here, for I know that the state of wrongdoing will continue on earth, and a great punishment will be carried out on the earth, and an end will be made of all iniquity, and it will be cut off at its roots, and the whole edifice will pass away, and iniquity will again be completed on the earth, and all the deeds of iniquity and the deeds of wrong and of wickedness will prevail for a second time. This is after the flood, written by Enoch the scribe, this complete wisdom and teaching, praised by all men and a judge of the whole earth, for all my sons who dwell on the earth, for the last generations who will practice justice and peace. We understand that, the saints are going to judge the world, right? And they're also going to, actually, let's get that too. And they're going to judge angels. It's in 1 Corinthians 6, right? Let's get this, right? Let me just do 6. Start off at verse 1. And it says this: dare any of you, having a matter against another, go to law before the unjust and not before the saints? Do ye not know that the saints shall judge the world? And if the world shall be judged by you, are you unworthy to judge the smallest matters? Know ye not that we shall judge angels? How much more things that pertain to this life? If then ye have judgments of things pertaining to this life, set them to judge who are least esteemed in the church. And then it goes on talking about this, going to law, basically arguing about the law before unbelievers, basically, right? All right, so let's continue with this. Let not your spirits be saddened by the times, for the Holy and Great One has appointed days for all things. And the righteous man will rise from sleep and will rise and will walk in the paths of righteousness, and all his paths and his journeys will be in eternal goodness and mercy. He will show mercy to the righteous man, and to him give eternal uprightness, and to him give power. And he will live in goodness and righteousness, and will walk in eternal light. And sin will be destroyed in darkness forever, and from that day will never again be seen. Okay. After this, Enoch began to speak from the books. And Enoch said, concerning the sons of righteousness, and concerning the chosen of the world, and concerning the plant of righteousness and uprightness, I will speak these things to you and make them known to you, my children. I, Enoch, according to that which appeared to me in the heavenly vision, and that which I know from the words of the holy angels, and understanding from the tablets of heaven. And Enoch began to speak from the books and said, I was born the 7th. And we went into this in Genesis 5, right? 7th from Adam, just like Jude says, right? Let's go into Jude, because that's where we get that, right? Book of Jude, right? Right here. Verse 14. And Enoch also, 7th from Adam, prophesied of these, saying, behold, the Lord cometh with 10,000 of his saints to execute judgment upon all, and to convince all that are ungodly among them of their ungodly deeds, which they have ungodly committed, and of all their hard speeches, which ungodly sinners have spoken against him. So this is talk about when the Most High comes back, right? And it's talk about the things that's going to be taking place in here. And I also want to read, because this also ties in with other parts of what's going to be happening in the last days. I believe it's in the woes for the sinners, right? So we're going to go into most of this, and then I'm going to bring up that video where David lied on Nick's channel, right? Concerning sons of righteousness and concerning the chosen of the world. All right, I read that. And Enoch began to speak from the books and said, I was born 7th in the first week, while justice and righteousness still lasted. And after me, in the second week, great injustice shall arise, and deceit will have sprung up. And in it there will be the first end, the flood. And in it a man will be saved, Noah. And after this, after it has ended, iniquity will grow, and he will make a law for the sinners when Moses comes around, right? And after this, in the third week, at its end, a man will be chosen as the plant of righteous judgment. I believe this is talking about Solomon, right? And after him will come the plant of righteousness forever. Talk about Christ. After this, in the fourth week, at its end, visions of the righteous and holy will be seen, and a law for all generations, and an enclosure will be made for them. Let's go up here and look at this chart in the fourth week. Yeah, this is Moses. All right, so that's Moses' time. So that's the fourth week. That's when Moses comes around. All right, where am I at? The fourth week. And after this, in the fifth week at its end, a house of glory and sovereignty will be built forever. This is Solomon's time, right? As we see on this chart, this is what the guy is, fifth week, Solomon, Israel, right? And I believe the man that ascends is David. Is Enoch Moses' father? No. Enoch would be more like Moses is. I would. It's like he would be his great grandfather, But I don't know. That's a good question. I would have to go in the Bible and see. But we know that everybody that came from the line of Seth, I would have to go into the genealogies of Adam, and then from Adam go into the other books, because people say, oh, we ain't supposed to focus on endless genealogies when the Bible is full of endless genealogies, right? Talks about the genealogy, the generations of Adam, talks about the generations of the Messiah, right? So if that doesn't matter, then why is it in the book? They just saying it's like saying, oh, that part of the book don't matter, so don't read it, right? Genesis 10 gives us the genealogies there, between Shem, Ham, and Japheth, and their sons. So I would have to go into there and, put it this way. Enoch is Noah's great grandfather, okay? Because Enoch had Methuselah, Methuselah had Lamech, and Lamech was the father of Noah, right? So after Noah, you would have Ham, Shem, and Japheth. Shem's line would be the line of where the Hebrews or the Israelites come from. And then you go down that line. I would have to go through it. I was definitely going to make a chart dealing with that as well, but that's going to take some work. But anyway, let's continue with this. So after this 4th week, okay, I'm on the 6th week. After this, in the 6th week, all those who live in it will be blinded, and the hearts of them all lacking wisdom will sink into a piety, and in it a man will ascend, and at its end the house of sovereignty will be burnt with fire. So we understand that this is talking about the destruction of Jerusalem, and what everybody would say 70 AD. And then after that, it says, and in it the whole race of the chosen root will be scattered. So this is where, after we all know that when Jerusalem was sacked, when it was destroyed in 70 AD, that's when they were scattered, right? So it says that they were scattered. And after this, in the 7th week, an apostate generation will arise. Let's look at the word for apostate. What does that mean? Right, just for you guys, I know what it means, but apostate, a person who renounces a religious or political belief or principle. So we are living in that apostate generation in the 7th week, right? Let's go to this chart. The 7th week, right, is right here. This is the whole 7th week. And right before that, it's going to be apostate generation. And you see the year right here is 100 AD with a question mark. And it talks about many deeds. After the many deeds are done is the second judgment, the judgment of fire, which hasn't happened yet. So let's go back down to the 7th week. An apostate generation will arise, and many will be its deeds, but all its deeds will be apostasy. And at its end, the chosen righteous and the eternal plant of righteousness will be chosen, and to whom will be given sevenfold teaching concerning his whole creation. And I believe that let me see in this thing here. This is when I believe this is when the Messiah comes back with the sword. All right. So I believe that's when he returns and he comes back, because this is talking about the future, a sword, future righteousness, new house. And we understand in Revelation 21, the new house is the new heaven and new earth, right? So let's see. Apostate. So it says here, from the eternal plant of righteousness will be chosen, to whom will be given sevenfold teaching concerning his whole creation. And when iniquity and sin and blasphemy and wrong and all kinds of evil deeds increase, which is what we see happening now, just look around the world. And when apostasy and wickedness and uncleanness increase, a great punishment will come from heaven upon all these. And the Holy Lord will come in anger and in wrath to execute judgment on the earth. In those days, wrongdoing will be cut off at its roots. Their towers will be burnt with fire, and they will remove them from the whole earth. And this is also mentioned in Malachi, right? Malachi 4. Right. This is what Malachi 4 says. This is what I believe this is referring to. For behold, the day cometh that shall burn as an oven, and all the proud, yea, and all that do wickedly shall be stubble. And the day that cometh shall burn them up, saith the Lord of hosts, that it shall leave them neither root nor branch. But unto you that fear my name shall the Son of Righteousness arise with healing in his wings, and ye shall go forth and grow up as calves in the stall, and ye shall tread down the wicked, for they shall be ashes under the soles of your feet in the day that I shall do this, saith the Lord of hosts. This is what this is talking about, right? And all the idols of the nations will be given up, their towers will be burnt with fire, and they will remove them from the whole earth, and they will be thrown down into the judgment of fire, and will be destroyed in anger, and in the severe judgment that is forever. And the righteous will arise from sleep, right? This is what it's talking about, Malachi 4, right here, right? But unto you that fear my name shall the Son of Righteousness arise with healing in his wings, and ye shall go forth and grow up as calves of the stall. And then they're going to be treading down the wicked. And the righteous will arise from sleep. This also talks about the resurrection. And wisdom will arise and will be given to them. And after this, the roots of iniquity will be cut off, and the sword will destroy the sinners. The blasphemers will be cut off in every place. Blasphemy will be destroyed by the sword. And after this, there will be another week, the 8th, that of righteousness, and a sword will be given to it, so that the righteous judgment may be executed on those who do wrong. And this is talking about the battle of Gog and Magog, right? Just to show you guys, this is the battle of Gog and Magog. Because after the first resurrection, this happens, right? Which is what Enoch was shown, right? So, but the rest of the dead live not again till 1,000 years were finished. This is the first resurrection. Blessed and holy is he that hath part in the first resurrection. On such the second death have no power, but they shall be priests of God and of Christ, and shall reign with him 1,000 years. Oh, that's what I know. I was going into page 46. So I'm gonna go back to page 46, and that's what I was going into. How Enoch was shown the Father and the Son in heaven. That's what that was. So I'm gonna go back to that after I'm done with this apocalypse of weeks. And when the 1,000 years are expired, Satan shall be loosed out of his prison, and shall go out to deceive the nations which are in the four quarters of the earth, Gog and Magog, to gather them together to battle. This is when that sword is given, right? As we see here in the 8th week, that of righteousness, and a sword will be given to it, so that the righteous judgment may be executed on those who do wrong, and the sinners will be handed over to the hands of the righteous. And at its end, they will acquire houses because of their righteousness, and a house will be built for the great King in glory forever. So we understand that's talking about Christ. And after this, in the 9th week, the righteous judgment will be revealed to the whole earth. Again, Revelation 20. Right? And I saw a great white throne, and him that sat on it, from whose face the earth and the heaven fled away, and there was found no place for them. And I saw the dead, small and great, stand before God, and the books were opened. And another book was opened, which is the book of life. And the dead were judged out of those things which were written in the books according to their works. And the sea gave up the dead which were in it, and death and hell delivered up the dead which were in them, and they were judged every man according to their works. Death and hell were cast into the lake of fire. This is the second death. And whosoever was not found written in the book of life was cast into the lake of fire. That's what this part is talking about. After this, in the 9th week, the righteous judgment will be revealed to the whole world, and all the deeds of the impious will vanish from the whole earth, and the world will be written down for destruction, and all men will look to the path of uprightness. And after this, in the 10th week, in the 7th part, there will be an eternal judgment that will be executed on the watchers, and the great eternal heaven that will spring from the midst of the angels. And the first heaven, right? This is also this is talking about Revelation 21 right here, right? Let's go on to Revelation 21. This is what this is talking about in Revelation 21. When he saw new heaven and new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth were passed away, and there was no more sea, right? Enoch. And the first heaven will vanish and pass away, and a new heaven will appear, and all the powers of heaven will shine forever with sevenfold light. And after this, there will be many weeks without number forever, in goodness and in righteousness. And from then on, sin will never again will be mentioned. And now I tell you, my children, and show you the paths of righteousness and the paths of wrongdoing. And I will show you again so that you may know what is to come. And now listen, my children, walk in the paths of righteousness and do not walk in the paths of wrongdoing. For all those who walk in the path of iniquity will be destroyed forever. And then it talks about that part. Now, this is another part that I wanted to get into. The message of guidance, I believe. Enoch's message of guidance. This deals with, I guess, this part. It's not broken down into what I got in my book, but this part deals with the woes for the sinners, what they're going to be facing. And now I say to you, my children, love righteousness, walk in it, for the paths of righteousness are worthy of acceptance, but the paths of iniquity will quickly be destroyed and vanish. And to certain men from a future generation, the paths of wrongdoing and of death will be revealed, and they will keep away from them and will not follow them. Now I say to you, the righteous do not walk in the wicked path, or in wrongdoing, or in the paths of death, and do not draw near to them, or you may be destroyed, but seek and choose for yourself righteousness and a life that is pleasing, and walk in the paths of peace, so that you may live and prosper. This is the same thing that Moses told the Israelites. And it says here, and hold my word firmly in the thoughts of your heart, and do not let them be erased from your heart. For I know that sinners will tempt men to debase wisdom, and no place will be found for it, and temptation will in no way decrease. Woe to those who build iniquity and found deceit, for they will quickly be thrown down and will not have peace. Woe to those who build their houses with sin, for from their whole foundation they will be thrown down, and by the sword shall they fall, and those who acquire gold and silver will quickly be destroyed in the judgment. Woe to you, you rich, for you have trusted in your riches. Now, this is the same thing that Christ told the apostles. Remember when he went to the rich man, or the rich man came to him and said, good master, what good thing must I do to inherit eternal life? And then he gives him some of the commandments. And then he says to Christ, all these have I kept up till my youth. What lack I yet? And he told him, go and sell all your possessions, give to the poor, and follow me. And then what did Christ say after that? He said to his disciples that it would be easier for a camel to go through the head of a needle than for a rich man to enter into heaven. Right? He says, woe to you, you rich, for you have trusted in your riches, but from your riches you will depart, for you did not remember the Most High in the days of your riches. You have committed blasphemy and iniquity, and are ready for the days of the outpouring of blood, and for the day of darkness, and for the day of the great judgment. Thus I say and make known to you, he who created you will throw you down, and over your fall there will be no mercy, but your Creator will rejoice at your destruction, and your righteousness in those days will be a reproach to the sinners and to the impious. And he says, would that mine eyes were a rain cloud, that I might weep over you and pour out my tears like rain, so that I might have rest from the sorrows of my heart. Who permitted you to practice hatred and wickedness? May judgment come upon you, the sinners. Do not be afraid of the sinners, you righteous, for the Lord will again deliver you into their hands, that you may execute judgment on them as you desire. Woe to you who pronounce anathema, or rather, that you cannot remove. Healing will be far from you because of your sins. Woe to you who repay your neighbors with evil, for you will be repaid according to your deeds. Woe to you, you lying witnesses, and to those who weigh out iniquity, for you will quickly be destroyed. Woe to you, you sinners, because you persecute the righteous. Kind of like what I see going on with people that believe that they should be keeping the laws of the Most High. But again, that's, some other story for another time. For you yourselves will be handed over and persecuted, you men of iniquity, and their yoke will be heavy upon you. Be hopeful, you righteous, for the sinners will quickly be destroyed before you, and you will have power over them as you desire. And in the day of the distress of the sinners, your young will rise up like eagles. We hear this also in the Bible. And your nest will be higher than that of the vultures, and you will go up and like badgers enter the crevices of the earth and the clefts of the rock forever before the lawless, and they will groan and weep because of you like satyrs. And do not be afraid, you who have suffered, for you will receive healing, and a bright light will shine upon you, and the voice of rest you will hear from heaven. Woes to you, you sinners, for your riches make you appear righteous, but your hearts prove you to be sinners. And this word will be a testimony against you as a reminder of your evil deeds. Woe to you who devour the finest of wheat and drink the best of well, in my book it says wine, or drink wine out of large. Excuse me, guys. Give me a second. Okay, I guess whoever called me didn't mean to call me. Anyway, back to this. Sorry about that, guys. I got a phone call. Woe to you, sinners, for your riches make you appear. All right, read that. Woe to you who devour the finest of wheat and drink the best of the water. But in my book, it says the wine. And trample upon the humble through your power. Woe to you who drink. This is not the way it's worded in my book, but I'm gonna read it anyway. Woe to you who drink the water all the time, for you will quickly be repaid and will become exhausted and dry, for you have left the spring of life. Woe to you who commit iniquity and deceit and blasphemy, it will be a reminder of evil against you. Woe to you, you powerful, who through power oppress the righteous, for the day of your destruction will come. In those days, many good days will come for the righteous in the day of your judgment. Believe, you righteous, that the sinners will become an object of shame and will be destroyed on the day of judgment. Be it known to you, sinners, that the Most High remembers your destruction and that the angels rejoice over your destruction. What will you do, you sinners? And where will you flee on that day of judgment when you hear the sound of prayer of the righteous? But you will not be like them, against whom this word will be a testimony. You have been associated with the sinners. And in those days, the prayer of the holy will be in front of the Lord, and for you will come the days of your judgment, and the words of your iniquity will be read out before the great and holy one, and your faces will blush with shame, and every deed which is founded upon iniquity will be rejected. And then it goes on. It talks about those who live in the middle of the sea on the dry ground, and those who acquire gold and silver, and stuff like that. But I want to keep this kind of short, so I'm gonna see. Let me see how much more I'm gonna read this part, because this also talks about what we currently see, and then I'm gonna get into that video where David lied and play that. So woe to you who acquire gold and silver. Oh, sorry. Woe to you, you sinners who are in the middle of the sea and on dry ground. Their memory will be harmful to you. Woe to you who acquire silver and gold, but not in righteousness, and say, we have become very rich and have possessions and have acquired everything that we desired. Now let us do what we have planned, for we have gathered silver and gold, silver and filled our storehouses, and as many as water there are the servants of our houses. So this is also mentioned in the Bible when it talks about what is that verse? I can't remember it. When it talks about your clothes are moth eaten, you have heaped up. Let me just bring that up. You have heaped up riches for the last days. I want to kind of get that. This also talks about it. James, in James chapter 5. And let me see. That's not what I want. That's the list of all the Bible versions. So let's go in James 5 real quick. Come on. All right, let's do this. James 5. This is what James 5 says. Go to now, ye rich men, and weep and howl for your miseries that shall come upon you. Your riches are corrupted, and your garments are moth-eaten. Your gold and silver are cankered, and the rust of them shall be a witness against you, kind of like what Enoch's talking about, right? And shall eat your flesh as it were fire. You have heaped treasures together for the last days. This is what it's talking about in Enoch right here. So it says, we have become rich and have possessions and have acquired everything that we desired. Now let us do what we have planned, for we have gathered silver and filled our storehouses, and as many as water as the servants of our houses. And like the water, your life will flow away, and your riches will not stay with you, but will quickly go up from you. For you acquired everything in iniquity, and you will be given over to a great curse. And then it goes on, and it talks about this, what we see currently happening today. It says, now I swear to you, the wise and the foolish, that you will see many things on the earth. For you, I'm going to read this a little bit correctly, because it says for you. Okay. I was about to say something. I was about to correct that, but it would sound correct in this. So for you men will put on yourselves more adornments than a woman, and more colored garments than a girl, clothed in sovereignty and in majesty and in power and in silver and in gold and purple and honors, and food will be poured out like water. So we see that happening right now. Just look around, right? A lot of men wearing women's clothes till this day. Let's just keep it at that. Because of this, they will have neither knowledge nor wisdom, and through this, they will be destroyed together with their possessions and with all their glory and their honor, and in shame and in slaughter and in great destitution. Their spirits will be thrown into the fiery furnace. I swear to you, you sinners, that as a mountain has not or will not become a slave, nor a heel a woman's maid, so sin was not sent on the earth, but man of himself created it. And those who commit it will be subject to a great curse. and barrenness has not been given to a woman, but because of the deeds of her hand, she dies without children. And then it goes on. It goes on. It's kind of a lot. I probably might do a part 2 in Mark page 147. This is going to have to be another part 2 because it's a long list here. So let me mark 147 and Enoch continue. Now I want to get into this video, right? Just give me a second. I'm about to bring this up where David lied, right? Dealing with something that I was talking about. Somebody mentioned, actually, it was brought up actually in the book of Enoch when I was reading how their sky was like water, right? Just give me a second. I'm gonna bring something up. I'll bring up 2 videos and I'm gonna cue. Just give me about a few seconds. Hold on. Okay, so, all right, Keith. All right, so I was on a discussion a few days ago, and the topic was dealing with the flat earth. And this is not an attack on anybody. This is just showing that, where David lied and said that he didn't say that the water that was created in Genesis 1 or the word for deep, right? So I'm gonna get that and I'm gonna pull up my video where he indeed said that. But let me get my video up real quick and we'll go into it. Just give me a second. My video's buffering. So honest. All right. So I got it up. Let's see here. We're gonna go to this part here. I believe it's right here. Hold on. Okay. Sorry for the wait. Now I got these two queued up. I want to go first to the live that when I went to go to the discussion about the dealing with the earth, right? And I was on Nick's channel, and again, this is not attacking Nick, but this is just to point out the lie that David told. He said he didn't say this on my channel. So let's go to Nick's channel first and play this discussion that we had a few days ago.
I keep getting, oh my God, I keep getting messages to like stopping me.
You said it was the earth. I'm telling you it's the deep.
Oh, okay. I didn't. Okay, I didn't. Okay. Well, hold on. Let me just finish reading it. Golly. And the earth was out form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. Okay, upon the face of the deep. What is deep?
Let's go to the word. It ties in.
Yeah. No. I'm asking. Because I don't know what it means when it says deep.
Click on the Strong's number. It was right there.
It's Teon.
What does it mean?
And it means the deep, subterranean waters.
Deep depth places, abyss, the deep sea, deep.
And even David agreed. David said he would use A through D in this.
I said it depends on context.
Yeah, it does depend on context.
Okay, so what's the context? David, what would you use in this context?
Actually, J-Man was talking, you guys.
Again.
All right, just let J-Man talk. I'm gonna let that. Hold on, David. Just let
J-Man finish.
These words have
let J-Man read. Hold on, let J-Man read, and we can finish it. Again, excuse the language. Sorry about that. Excuse the language. Because at least J-Man has a little bit of integrity. To be honest.
So okay, I have experience. I was Navy, an expediter, and no ship ever fell over.
Okay, J-Man was in the middle of something, so please.
There's not one of these words that does not have multiple meanings in this. Not one.
David, give J-Man the floor.
Please let J-Man finish his fucking thing, guys. Come on. Please.
So anyway, let me skip a little bit ahead here. Because David made the statement that he didn't say that he would use A through D in the sentence.
So let's go back. Go back, Melvin.
J-Man, you don't think it could have been C? Primeval waters?
I think that's the one I go back. I'm sorry, go back. Isn't that the one I said?
I think you said A.
You said A, I was looking at C.
Okay. Okay. Well, it says primeval ocean. I don't see why it couldn't be that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they all tie back to the deep.
Yes, but that's not how you when you read something. Okay, So let me explain it like this, Melvin. So when you use something in context, right, you can't say that like if we're using this, because the lexicon is basically just a dictionary, right? So if we're using this, right, you can't say that every definition means the same thing in a sentence. It's like so for example, I'm sorry.
Said I'm not saying that. I'm like I said before on my channel when me and David had this talk before, I asked David, which ones would you use for deep dealing with Genesis 1? He said he would use A through D.
Okay. I don't really see that.
Okay. Now let's go back to the verse. Let's read the whole verse, and then we could go back to this word deep. All right, so David in that video said he didn't say that on my channel. Now we're over here on my channel where me and David were having this discussion. We're going to play from 37 minutes where David, well, let me see. We're going to go right here, 35:30. We're going to start here. David kept trying to straw man me, as again, David loves to spam my chat.
Trying to push this thing in a direction it doesn't go. I don't know how many times I have to tell you.
No, I'm really just asking you to go grab your Hebrew, David, and read it from the Hebrew then, and translate it. You're the Jew, right?
Word games, I'm not going to play with you.
Okay. Well, David, you say you got the Hebrew and all that, you know, and I'm just asking you to grab and help me out. You don't want to help?
No, your problem is you don't want to learn. You have an ending, and you're trying to connect everything to it. This is exactly what you do. This is word BHI. Same thing. Identical.
Oh.
Well, no. What about your Genesis 10, Melvin? You constantly go
I'm not worried about that.
And I've asked you multiple times.
I'm constantly touching on that.
Melvin, connect those
That's
people
not the topic
with
on here.
And you never can do it. You never can do it. It's amazing. You never can do it, but you're not interested in the truth. You've never been.
All right, David. Now let's get back on the original topic because I can go some scriptures and it say the same thing in your Hebrew, but I don't focus on that, David. I just focus on.
You're the one that has used that line constantly, the same as the BHI.
Oh, really?
Every time I say the same thing, connect it with modern day Ashkenaz, and you never can do it, neither can they. Okay, and in this particular case, I'll say it again. There's a lot of things that go into this. There's a reason why there's multiple interpretations on exactly what this means.
So which interpretation would fit you, David? In the beginning, God created the heaven and earth.
Bereshit, yes, agreed. So
right there, he said he agreed. When I went on Nick's show, David said he didn't agree with Genesis 1:1. Now let's listen to the rest of this.
Yes.
And the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep.
All right, let me ask you this.
Is that deep clouds or is that literally deep water? Because this word also ties back to water, David.
Was the world created in 6 days?
Theon, right?
Was the world created in 6 days?
According to God's word, yeah.
Okay. Is a day to God 24 hours? And if it is, show me where it says that.
See, no. See,
here's your problem. Once again, you're not willing to do any kind of thinking. I'm asking you, show me where it says that.
And I made a parody clip of this very video, this very clip right here. But I want to go back a little bit more to when David first comes on. Okay, right here. Let's listen about 5 or 10 minutes of this. And then I'm going to play that parody clip where I actually showed David what he was asking for.
Oh, no. Where'd you go, David?
Right here.
As far as the word you're referring to, and one thing I've told you before, biblical Hebrew is less than 10,000 words. So there's got to be more than just, you've got to see how it's used in a sentence. You've got to see what it would be in conjunction with other words. What is the, it's not as clean and straightforward as possible. As you would
all right. So, David, can I ask you a question?
Shoot.
Is the word for firmament rakia?
That, yes.
Okay.
Now, when I asked David on Nick's show, he didn't want to answer. So he said yes. Let's continue.
Now, what is the rakia?
Look, you've got the multiple definitions there of what it could in fact be.
No, it's only one definition here, David.
Right, but you're talking about water, right? We're talking about water.
No. We're talking about the firmament.
Right, but in this case, what you had before, that there was water, that this is water. Is that
no,
the
there
firmament?
was no. There was water before the earth.
Right.
David, you should know the story. Come on now.
No, I know the story, but I'm asking in what relationship to it. You're not dealing with modern English. In this case, you're looking at firmament, and your or Strong's analysis would, in fact, or blue letters would be accurate.
But then on Nick's show, he said that it wasn't accurate.
Having said that,
all right. So
wait a minute. Whoa, stop.
David,
Stop
David,
for a minute.
David,
Whoa,
David.
stop.
All right,
You see firmament, a vault of the heavens supporting waters above. That's what I was talking about. That's what I was talking about. So,
what about this part right here?
Which one?
The one highlighted.
Considered by Hebrews a solid and supporting waters above. Correct. And I could very easily, okay, we're talking nice now. I could very easily interpret that as being clouds.
And that's where he started to lie. Are clouds solid, people? I don't think so. So let's go to the parody video. Let me bring this one down, and I'm going to end this live. But again, this tied in with Enoch when he said that their sky was like water. This is why I'm bringing this up. So let me go to this parody where he asked me the straw man question. Is a day to God 24 hours? And if it is, show him where it says that. Let me bring this up.
I'm constantly judging on that.
Melvin, connect those.
That's not the topic.
and you never can do it. You never can do it. It's amazing. You never can do it, but you're not interested in the truth. You've never been.
I'm constantly judging on that.
Okay, so once again, okay, and in this particular case, I'll say it again, Ben.
That's another part I want to bring up. Where is it? 35:45. He said in this case, he would use that water as drinking water. That would be 35:45. But you guys can go back and look at my Genesis chapter 1, the original creation video, and you can go watch that in full. I'm going to just keep this short. But this is where David asks me to show him where a day is 24 hours according to God.
All right, David. Now let's get back on the original topic because I can go some scriptures and it say the same thing in Hebrew, but I don't focus on that, David. I just focus on
You're the one that has used that one.
and darkness was upon the face of the deep.
Let me ask you this.
Is that deep clouds or is that literally deep water? Because this word also ties back to water, David.
Was the world created in 6 days?
They all, right?
Was the world created in 6 days?
According to God's word, yeah.
Okay. Is a day to God 24 hours? And if it is, show me where it says that.
So according to the Most High, in fact, indeed, as you see in part B, a day is a 24-hour period. So just wanted to show that, right? That's when he tried to straw man. So with that said, everybody, shalom. And if you do keep the Shabbat, happy Shabbat or Shabbat shalom. And, you know, I'm going to be doing that Romans, the book of Romans, probably Sunday. So I'm going to take me a day break, you know, give me some rest, eat me some food. And then I'm going to continue on with that Proverbs on Monday and then go back into Enoch on Tuesday. So everybody have a blessed day. Enjoy the Shabbat if you keep it. And I'll see you guys Sunday. Shalom.